Hi everyone, a very good morning. Assalamualaikum. I'm all the way from Malaysia. It's not too bright out, unfortunately. But here I am with all of you. It's wonderful to be with all of you, and thank you, Caring for Life, for this invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. I am originally from Johor, so we're neighbors, practically. Although currently I am all the way from Kuala Lumpur at this moment. So thank you for being here. And this is a subject that is very, very close to my heart. I am a person with lived experience. I have lost a loved one a decade ago. Unfortunately, I don't like to mention um, his name. I Not that I don't like, I cannot mention his name. Unfortunately, I cannot mention his name, and I don't like to mention the year I lost my loved one. And if you notice, I only mention loved one because it was it was very messy. 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago, a decade ago, suicide um, were not handled well, I must say, in Malaysia. It was really messy to the point that although my loved one died in the privacy of a home, but unfortunately the photos uh, were leaked on the internet, and therefore I do not like to mention the name or the year, because it's still available, unfortunately, on the internet, with everything. Unfortunately, with the police report and everything, it was messy. I struggled. I'm still struggling, actually, with depression. I've been diagnosed with depression and anxiety back in September 2019, so many, many years after I lost my loved one. But it has been a long journey for me, a long battle. So I am a person with lived experience with suicide loss, as well as struggling or dealing with mental health issues at the moment. But Alhamdulillah, it has been challenging, painful journey, but I must say that with support, with the understanding why I need to move forward, why I need to show that I can make a difference in people's lives. It is still very hard for me, even though it has been more than 10 years or a decade. There is not a day goes by that I do not think of my loved one. There is not a day goes by that I do not miss him. There are still days that I feel guilty for not being able to um, help him, or save him, I guess. I still go through these bouts every now and then, but I'm here for a reason. I show up every day, especially in this kind of event programs, so that I could honor my loved one. I do not want him to die in vain, and every time I present, every time I show up for events like this, I feel like I'm honoring him. Um, and every time I tell myself that, things need to change, especially in Malaysia. 10 years ago, our mental health literacy was very, very poor. Now it has improved. There are a lot of more talks, discussion, discourses on suicide prevention, on suicide prevention awareness, and even postvention. I will share some more as I go along, but thank you all for being here. For those of you who has lost loved one to suicide, please know that there is hope. It isn't an easy journey. It was very, very dark. It was actually the darkest path I had to take in my life. but rest assured that there is hope, that we can come together and support each other and transform this pain into purpose. But if you're not ready to transform it into purpose, we can do it step by step, by changing, by transforming struggles into strength first. Yeah. So I'm going to share my slides right now. Today, the topic is about, working with friends and relatives of persons with suicide ideation. It is a topic of my interest, definitely. Anything to do with suicide awareness, prevention, postvention is something that I am really passionate about. Like I said, because it has touched my life. I have never gone through such a excruciating pain in my life, but that moment, or I guess the whole journey of healing and recovering, is something that I will remember, or something that will be near and dear to my heart, because it was something that is very, 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 very challenging. So yesterday was our World Suicide Prevention Day. Every year I would not celebrate, but uh, remember all the people that we have lost to suicide. Um, we know that suicide prevention is a priority, because every year around 800,000 people around the world will take their own life. This is the statistics of WHO. And that means if we're talking about 800,000 people, almost 800,000 people every year. So every 40 seconds, someone loses their life to suicide. So definitely, it's time to raise awareness. I don't know. I feel like Singapore is definitely ahead of us in terms of talking about society, in terms of people with lived experience sharing their experience. Malaysia, unfortunately, it's changing. A lot of things are changing, but it's a little bit slow, I feel. I remember during COVID, that was the time when I started my advocacy work. I started AWAS. Um, but at that point of time, I think 2022, I noticed that Singapore was already, there were few mothers talking about losing their daughters or losing their children to suicide, like it was a support group, or and then it turned out to be an NGO or something like that. So here in Malaysia, advocacy in terms of people with lived experience are not many. There are a few people, individuals or NGOs, uh, that are peer-led, but I would love to see more people advocating, and be involved, and sharing their lived experience, because I truly believe in listening or sharing the lived experience of others, because it has helped me so much in navigating my grief and my loss. And it has helped me to actually understand, that to know that I'm not alone in this journey, no matter how painful, or no matter how I feel like I can't go anymore, I can't keep going anymore. But when we are surrounded by people who are supportive, or people who have gone through this ordeal, then that you can count on these people when times are rough. Here is a poem. Do you know what it feels like to lose someone to suicide? Exactly. Not a clue, right? Aku kesal dan sesal. Maafkan aku bebal. Ada degree psikologi konon. Failed to see you were troubled and so alone. Ku kata, kau attention seeking. Ku fikir, elok saja kau dimarah ditengking. Walhal kau pernah berdiri di hujung situ, aku tetap bebal dengan pendirianku. Memaling muka, mengharap ia berlalu, mengaku lemah, ku pasti kau tak mahu. The pressure mounted, your mental health deteriorated. You didn't want to be a burden. As a result, We lose you out of a sudden. My assumption was far from right. You took your life that night. No, it was not seeking attention. It was certainly a grave plight. Charming and loved by many, smart enough to be nominated a valedictorian. You made us all very proud. But what the hell? Boys don't cry. Men up, they say. You suffered in silence, fighting battles and demons we knew nothing about. Sekarang, aku pula yang menghidapi penyakit depresi dan anxiety ini. Hiba melampau, jantungku kencang, perut memulas, peluh sebesar ibu jari. Penyiksaan jiwa kau dah lenyap. Kini ku tanggung derita dalam senyap. Aku dah habis esak. Aku dah tak larat penat. Aku kian hilang kudrat. Benak fikiranku semakin sarat. God knows I've committed a crime for ignoring all the signs. Forever I will be locked up behind those invisible bars of guilt. Aku bersalah. Sangkaanku kau hanya tagihkan perhatian. Aku bersalah kerana tak sedar engkau dalam kemurungan. Ke kubur kan dibawa penyesalan ini. Derita kutukar sumpah dan janji. Pemangkin pendidikan dan pengajaran. Agar kesihatan mental tidak lagi diperlekehkan. Ku meniti pusara sepi. Kasih dan ingatan segar tak henti. Mencari maksud dan juga erti. Keyakinanku penuh tiap ajal di tanganmu ilahi. Ku serah segalanya pada yang maha mengetahui. Thank you, everyone. I wrote that poem when I was really, really at the peak of my depression. I don't know why. I don't know why I started writing poem. I am not very poetic or not very creative in creative writing or poetry writing. But suddenly, because there was a lot of, I was grieving so badly. I was depressed. Um, it was heavy. There was a lot of heaviness, a lot of guilt, a lot of pain, a lot of um, anger, even, words that were not expressed, feelings were not expressed. So I remember doing journaling, a lot of journaling, and writing, just writing all my feelings down and whatever that I was going through, that at that particular moment. And then suddenly I had an idea to write a poem. It just came automatically, and I did my poem. It's in English and in Malay. Just cause I don't know I don't follow any rules. I just express myself, and I would encourage people who are going through any kind of grief or loss or pain even, to actually do journaling and write poetries. There is no right or wrong. You can just write and express yourself. You don't have to recite it out loud. But I think poetry or writing has helped me to process my grief as well. So that was it. So that's a poem from me, from my heart to yours, all the way from Kuala Lumpur to Singapore. So basically, when a person, or when we hear about suicide, or when a person lost a loved one to suicide, the question is always, always why. I struggled with the question why for a very, very, very long time, probably 5-6 years before I stopped asking myself why it happened, why I had to lose a loved one, why did bad things have to happen to good people, why did God do this to me, this kind of whys, so many whys that I had to confront. And actually, we have to know that we must know that suicide is actually the result of a very complex interaction of risk factors, including but not limited to, genetic, psychological, social, cultural risk factors, cultural risk factors, and sometimes combined with experience of trauma and loss. So it's very complicated. It's complex. There is no one reason for someone to take a life. Um, I personally really hate it when I see on the headline, in the news where they say, um, uh, a girl, 9-year-old girl, this happened in Malaysia. A 9-year-old girl took her life because she was scolded by the grandmother for playing phone, using her phone or mobile phone or something like that. Those kinds of headlines simplify. It is too simplistic, and it doesn't really justify the loss, because it only invites judgment. It only invite people to look at that person as, like, how can they be so weak, like, or just one scolding from grandma, you want to take your life. So these headlines, these headlines in the news or clickbaits are really harmful, because there is no one reason, or one simple reason for suicide. So it is not something that um and we can't really say, oh, that person took her life because of depression. It's not. Sometimes depressed, a lot of people who are depressed do not take their lives. So it is a combination of everything. And losing a loved one to suicide is actually a long journey, a long, you have a list of questions in your head, the whys, how come, all that. And I do hope, that people who have never experienced it do not have to experience. Perhaps, I don't know, the situation in Singapore. Yes, we in Malaysia too, because of the condominiums, so the communities are affected too, sometimes not just family members, but people who witness, neighbors who heard or witnessed what happened. And postvention is something that is very, very important. I remember when I experienced the loss, I was really lost, and I tried to find references or books or, stuff, information on what to do, how to navigate this loss, in the Malaysian context, or in the Asian context at least. I wanted to read references or books on lived experience. Yes, I'm a psychology background. I have a degree in psychology, but I wanted to learn or read, and know that I'm not alone. I wanted to learn and read about how other people are navigating through this grief, or um, to be honest, I saw my loved one struggling with his mental health issues. He was never diagnosed, but 10 years ago, we do not, discuss openly about mental health. And because of the dynamic of my relationship, it made it harder, a lot harder to ask, are you okay? It's like, and also because of this, uh, I guess because of uh, the whole sense of, like, boys don't cry, um you know uh, uh, affected me and stopped me, I guess, from asking him, because I did not want him um to feel embarrassed or ashamed about it. I regret it until this day, for not asking, for not intervening. I noticed he was not able to sleep. I noticed he was struggling with anger. There was a lot of anger, a lot of pent up emotions. He was self-harming. He was riding his bike a lot, even at night. In retrospect, perhaps, I don't know. Perhaps it was he was dealing with bipolar, but bipolar disorder. But it's too late now. It's too late to know, but it's not too late to send this message across. So it is, you know, very important for us to realize the signs in our loved ones or our relatives, our friends. Sometimes the warning signs are very, very subtle, but sometimes it's there. And if we start to wear this new lens of like, being aware of the warning signs of suicide, it will help us and it will help them. We can help we can help ourselves to help them, to seek support. So the introduction, unfortunately, only I'm at the introduction slide. I'll go a little bit fast. Community is the heart of prevention, I believe so. You don't we don't have to wait for only experts or doctors or psychiatrists or psychologists to support or to treat someone who are dealing with mental health issues or suicidality. We all can play a role. Everyone in the community can play a role. It starts at home. So if you have a relative, if you see someone, during your festivities, during visitation, or you bump into someone at the MRT station, things like that. If you notice that they are acting strange or being, a little bit withdrawal or physically uncanned, these are things that we should be aware of and look out for, in our loved ones, in our relatives. So caregivers play a frontline role. It's a vital role to play, and it's something that we all need to be aware of right now, the warning signs, and together we can build resilience. If you look here, the statistics of suicide deaths in Malaysia, 2020 is 631. It has gone up all the way to, after COVID, it went up to 1,142, which is in 2021. And then now it's still around 1,000 deaths per year. The thing is, I don't feel it's very, very accurate. I'm sure it is being underreported. And at the moment, we do not have, in Malaysia, we do not have a suicide registrar. So suicide deaths are reported by police. Police will report the death, and sometimes we know it's either underreported or um, it's, I believe it's not accurate. So I am quite certain it is more than that. Hopefully in 2025, because of a lot of work by the MOH, at the grassroots levels, NGOs, people who live the experience are coming out and speaking about it. I really hope to see that 2025, the cases are lower, hopefully lower than 1,000. Let's see. It is very sad that we have, and it is very sad and unfortunate that people take their lives. But we, as caregivers, can play roles. Caregivers and relatives can play our role. We can offer empathy and active listening. We can recognize warning signs early, connect loved ones to professional help. I think that is very, very important, because that's where I feel I saw the warning signs of my loved one, but I was not able to connect or even ask a simple question. Research shows that when you ask somebody, are you, a direct and open, honest, compassionate, kind question, a kind intonation, with kind intonation, um, uh, when you ask somebody if they are suicidal, or if they are thinking of dying, or if they are giving up, or questions like that, research shows that it is actually helpful for them, helpful for the people, because sometimes people think that when we ask these questions, it will insert ideas to those who are not suicidal, or to think of being suicidal. But actually, it's actually helpful, because it will make them feel like, oh, I'm seen, I'm noticed, I'm being heard. And it makes them feel like somebody cares, somebody actually care out there. So connecting loved ones to professional help is something that we have to learn. and build on. It of course it takes rapport, it takes trust. Here in Malaysia, we have a term makcik bawang. Sometimes, your relatives are the ones who are triggering, or causing people who become very distressed or depressed even. So make sure, if we recognize, if we know that our relationship with our relatives, right, as a caregiver, if we know that they are not trusting us for whatever reason, maybe we had a part not so good past with them, or whatever reason, but it's important that we find somebody else, that person who is struggling, trust, to connect with them, and make sure that they are being connected, to professional help. Um, Please do not ignore them. Please do not think that, oh, nanti dia okay lah tu, Please do not think, oh, they'll be okay. I'm sure they'll be okay. I'm sure they'll talk to their friends. Do not assume that, because I made that mistake, and please learn from my mistake. I I I, I honestly assume that he'll be okay. I honestly assume that, he'll confide in his friends, and his friends will support him. Um, Even I thought he was seeking for attention. So please do not dismiss people who are suicidal as, or who are in distress as seeking attention, because you really never know when is their last day on earth. So do not think that, yes, maybe it is seeking attention, but seeking attention, we can always reframe that into seeking for support. They are seeking attention because they need the support. So it helps us to see them as human, to see them as someone needing support, and not, or the person who's always, trying to pick fights, or not the person who's always making troubles or things like that. Okay. And provide ongoing encouragement and support. Self-care is a must. As a caregiver, we need to practice, or do a lot of self-care, and also advocacy. This is um my favorite of all the things that we can do as a relative, or as a caregiver to our loved ones. It is not for everyone. Advocacy is not meant for everyone. It also needs readiness, but it's something that I have learned, and have really learned to love and enjoy. I will share more with.
And there's PS2, PS3, and now PS4. And that makes sense. You'd think after Xbox, there'd be Xbox 2. But no. Next came Xbox 360. And now, after 360, comes Xbox One. Why one? Maybe that's how many seconds of thought they put into naming it.
Can you get the butter, please?
Yeah, however, with the Xbox One, I can control my entire entertainment system using voice commands. Up until now, I've had to use Leonard.
Then get the other one. Pass the butter.
Hang on. I don't feel like you're taking this dilemma seriously.
Fine, Sheldon. You have my undivided attention.
Okay, now, the PS4 is more angular and sleek looking.
No way!
It's true. But the larger size of the Xbox One may keep it from overheating.
But you wouldn't want your gaming system to overheat?
No, you absolutely would not. And furthermore, the Xbox One now comes with a Kinect included.
Included?
Yes. Not sold separately. Although the PS4 uses cool new GDDR5 RAM, while the Xbox One is still using the conventional DDR3 memory.
Why would they still be using DDR3? Are they nuts?
See, that's what I thought. But then they go and throw in an ES RAM buffer.
Oh, wait a second. Who's they?
The Xbox.
You're kidding!
No, I am not. This ES RAM buffer should totally bridge the 100 gigabit per second bandwidth gap between the two RAM types.
This is a nightmare. How will you ever make a decision?
See, I don't know. What should I do?
Please pass the butter! I'm proud of you, Sheldon.
Yeah, I'm proud of me too. I've done all my research, I conducted an informal poll, and I've arrived at the rock solid certainty I've made the right choice.
Well, that's got to be a good feeling.
Oh, it is. Although,
Oh, crap.
I had the same feeling when I made my dad buy a Betamax instead of a VHS.
You were just a little kid.
Yeah, a little kid who picked the wrong format to record the McNeil-Lehrer report. I also was certain that HD DVD would win out over Blu-ray.
How old were you then?
Old enough to know better. And now that I think about it, I stood in front of a case of iPods and I bought a Zune.
What's a Zune?
Yep, exactly. It's an MP3 player brought to us by the makers of Xbox.
No, what are you doing? No, pick that back up. You know it's good. You did the research.
But what if I'm wrong?
You know what? How about I buy it for you? How about I buy you both?
You know I only have one slot available on my entertainment center.
Then I'll buy you a new entertainment center.
Yeah, okay, sure. But which one?
How about this? I've heard that if you flip a coin, it will tell you how you actually feel because you'll either be disappointed or excited by the outcome.
Interesting.
So heads, it's PS4, tails, it's Xbox One.
All right, I'll try.
What is it?
A quarter.
Could have given it back to me. That was a choice.
On the one hand, the Xbox One has a better camera, but the PS4 has a removable hard drive. Thoughts?
I can't feel my legs.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys, but the store closed 5 minutes ago.
But I haven't decided yet.
You have to come back tomorrow. The registers are closed.
Let's get you some food. You'll feel better after you eat. What do you want? Like Thai food, a burger?
Okay. So basically, can I have some participation? What did we witness from the beginning until the end? Basically, is there anyone who would like to say something? As far as offering empathy and active listening, was there any active listening going on? Or or was he being listened to? Did he feel heard or listened to? Did he feel cared for? Is there anyone wants to?
So there are a few responses in the chats.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Joanne says long suffering. Then Nojana say be present. Ming say can be frustrated when you're supporting. Then John also said that we need to know what we want. If not, we are spoiled for choices, being forced to listen. To be honest. Then Alison says staying with him all the way during the whole process of deciding what to do. Inji said he felt hurt when she was able to rephrase and mirror the emotions. Yeah, a few more going on in the chat as well. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. So basically, we see it, right? It happens in our daily life too. It's not. Sometimes we tend to, especially in a hurry or when we're rushing or when we're tired, when we just come back from work and our loved ones, whether it's our children or spouse or whoever, parents, who wants our attention, and that sometimes we accidentally dismiss them or belittle them, or sometimes these are not on purpose, especially when we also have things on our mind. And so make a point. It's important to make a point to be present, to offer empathy. And yeah, maybe it's a funny video on, like, choosing this or that, A or B. But actually in life, we have people who confide or come to us on, dilemmas. It's a human thing to feel, do I want this or that? You know, do I have to go through with this or not? Do I want A or B, green or red, or so these are the things that it's important. The Sharon did not, the lady did not know anything about games, or PS station, or Xbox or things like that. But she made a point to listen, to care about what he was struggling or dealing with, and that matters to him, right? So sometimes we don't know. Yeah, it's not a topic of interest or for us. It's not something that or maybe that person, because they are struggling with their mental health, they keep repeating and repeating and repeating the same thing. Let's say this person has gone through some trauma, or maybe some mental health condition will make them have intrusive thoughts, or keep repeating the same thing. So we've heard their struggles, or the things that are bothering them for maybe hundreds of times already. So it's easier to just, like, like, dismiss them and say, like, I need to rest, or but you really never know which number that you might be dismissive. And at that point of time, it's tough when that person is in need of your attention. But we need to try our best, in offering empathy and providing active listening. I believe God gave us 2 ears and one mouth for a reason, right? So that we can hear more and talk less. The problem with us, or our relative, or our community, sometimes we offer unsolicited advice. People sometimes need to be heard. They want to share or confide in, but they don't need advice. So listening to advice sometimes can feel dismissive as well. So be careful. We don't always get it perfect or right, but it's something that we can develop and learn, and be mindful of. Yeah. And these are the warning signs of suicide, that we need to learn as well. I love this acronym very, very much. It has helped me a lot in supporting people who are suicidal in AWAS. Is path warm? Yeah, it makes sense. It's a path warm. But it's just for us to remember by. It's easier to remember the warning signs of suicide. Ideation, substance abuse, purposelessness, anxiety, trapped, like feeling trapped, hopelessness, withdrawal, anger, recklessness, mood change. So all these, if you can see it in someone. You can, that person that you are that is under your care, or somebody you notice that are showing all this, or even if not all, perhaps five out of two out of 10, right? It is something that you can ask them, or ask them to connect with them and ask them if they are struggling in any ways. It's important to get the signs, get one be one to notice the signs early than later, or denying it, or waiting for it for a good time. There is no don't wait for the right time, because you never know if it's too late to ask. So don't wait, but also, to talk about this, to ask them if they're suicidal or feeling not okay, takes skills, takes compassion, takes kindness, and the right intonation and all that. But don't worry too much about it. What is important is that we want to help. And if they find it offensive the first time around, or they feel like, we're being intrusive or things like that, always make sure somebody close to them are supporting them, or are looking after them, because it is the warning signs should be taken seriously. And if it's hard, maybe you can show this. This is also something that you can show. You can Google it and ask them, hey, I notice you've been very explosive lately, for example, because when we say explosive, it's easier to imagine, right? Some people don't have the words, or don't know how to describe. So maybe you can show this, especially to a child, okay, where are you at? Are you at number one? Number two, number three, four, five. I notice you have been feeling number four or number three lately. You get triggered or you get upset very quickly. Is there anything wrong? Would you like to tell me? I mean, sometimes pictures can help people express themselves too, depending on their age. Um, and then things to know about issues on suicide, especially, like I said earlier, research shows that it is better to talk. It is okay to ask, it doesn't create risk if you ask properly and with the right intonation, and do not worry too much about asking if someone is feeling suicidal. It's okay. And people who have suicidal thoughts or plans are relieved, actually, like I said, earlier, when someone knows about them, and is able to help them. Discussing suicidality with a person or with suicidal thoughts will not lead them to attempt suicide. So it's like, they say, it's like, the metaphor is like smoking lah. If you don't smoke, you don't if somebody else is smoking, or offer you a cigarette, you don't want, you won't take it, right? But if you're already a smoker or have intention to smoke, to try smoking, when somebody offers, that's the time when you like, oh, maybe I should try, or maybe I want, or maybe, let's smoke together. So the point is, like, if someone do not have suicidal thoughts or do not think about ending their life, even if we ask, it's not putting any ideas into that, so there is no risk there. And learn from my mistake. Like I've said, most people show some warning signs before their suicide attempt or act. It is important to recognize this so that one can take appropriate action to reach out to the person at risk. And people who attempt suicide are not seeking attention. That's a myth. Suicide attempts are brushed off as seeking attention. Often it is not seen as genuine efforts to end one's life, but as a tactic to manipulate people for attention. Please be very, very careful. More often than not, people who we assume or think or brush off as seeking attention, they may not necessarily die that day when we think that they are seeking for attention, but somewhere along the road, they would still try to attempt and take their life, because the risk gets higher once a person has attempted. Some are seeking the opposite of attention, a need to escape, want pain to stop. So if we reframe our mindset and say, they actually want their pain to stop, people they do not want to die, but they want the pain to stop. And the only way they know how is to die, perhaps. So get them to get help, support them, be kind, do whatever it takes, with self-care, to help them handle their or get support for their mental health issues. Many people who die by suicide have communicated their feelings, thoughts, or plans before their death. I know a person who has planned everything, from A to Z, the dates and everything, and confided in me and told me about it. It was very scary, because she knew exactly when, where, how, what, of the plan. But do not fear and do not be worried too much about this, because I feel because we're not alone in this. There are always professionals who we can count on for help. But also, the most important person is you that is supporting. Be okay. Be ready to feel uncomfortable, because it is an uncomfortable subject, right? When people tell you that they want to end their life, but hold their hand, not literally or literally, it doesn't matter, but make sure to guide them and be them all the way. But if you cannot, for whatever reason, make sure that somebody else will take that responsibility and not ignore them or leave them alone, because it can be a danger. So who is at risk of suicide? I am. Um, uh, because I have loss of relationship. I have a mental illness, depression and anxiety, history of trauma abuse, not trauma, but I have a history of trauma. It was very traumatic when my loved one died. Like I said, it was all over the news. The name, everything was in the, when it was in the, not tabloid, but what do you call that? Um, this not websites. What's the word I'm looking for? All over social media. They viral it, unfortunately, with the pictures, and the comments were horrible. Like, of course, they say things like, oh, he's a low life, he doesn't have what, he'll go to hell, yada yada, like, those things are very hurtful. They were talking about my loved one, they know nothing about my loved one. But people are mean, people are mean, especially on social media, and it's very, very painful to witness and experience that. So, the history of trauma is something that is very, very strong for me. Lack of social support or social isolation. I felt um, when I was going through my grief, I felt really, really isolated. Because 10 years ago, people don't talk about losing a loved one to suicide. 10 years ago, people don't really talk about dealing with mental health struggles. So I felt really alone. I felt I had self-stigma. Constantly felt like every time I walk out of the house, there's a sign on my forehead that says survivor of suicide loss. I really, it was really hard um to even maintain friendships, because I was very unstable emotionally at that point of time. I remember treating my best friend like a punch bag, and we were always fighting. And because at that point in time, she was going to get married, and I have lost my loved one. So, I was not happy listening to her happy, unfortunately, sadly. And, the grief was too much for her to like to support me at that point of time. I was just not okay. I was depressed already, but I was not diagnosed yet. I was in denial. I did not want to go seek help because I thought I was okay. Being trained in psychology, I thought I knew all the relaxation techniques, all the, CBT, all the therapies and whatnot. So I thought I was okay. I was in denial. But until I experienced a panic attack, I couldn't breathe. I was driving. I remember I was driving on the highway to Seremban. I was having a panic attack. My heart was there was palpitation and I couldn't breathe. I had stomach aches and I had to stop, pull over at the side of the road. I couldn't breathe. Nobody disturbed me. Nobody said anything or honked me or anything like that. It just came. And that was the point of time where I couldn't get up. My children, I've got two daughters. Two of my girls did not go to school for 2 months. I was just drained. I didn't have the energy to get up. I was not okay. I was, crying. Having outbursts, emotional outbursts. Sometimes crying, sometimes anger, sometimes, just not okay in general. I was feeling very, very hopeless, to the point where I felt like, my children are better off without me because I am not a functional mother. Perhaps I should die too, and history of suicide in family or loved one, that's me as well. And exposure to others who have died by suicide. So the yellow ones are the risk. And 7 out of this, 11 points, I am at risk. So identify, we ourselves need to identify if we are at risk, or the people that we are caring for, or providing caregiving, or people who are under our care. It is important for us to know the risk, especially if that person have lost important, meaningful relationships, or have mental illness, or have, lost jobs or financial loss. I remember that during COVID, that was the time where people, there was a lot of higher rate of suicide. And even like I said, previous suicide attempts, if somebody has attempted or have attempted many times, do not brush it off as, um, seeking for attention, because like I said, you never know when really is the last time you see them. Because previous suicide attempts, people who have previous suicide attempts are at high risk of taking their lives, really, dying by suicide. And these are the protective factors from suicide. But I would like to highlight the cultural and religious beliefs that encourage connecting and help seeking, discourage suicidal behavior, or create a strong sense of purpose or self-esteem. Personally, I feel like 10 years ago, Malaysia was not there culturally. The religion doesn't help either, when it's very, it comes from a very judgmental tone. Um, but then there are more and more voices and narratives of, people who die by suicide are, perhaps they are ill, and God is compassionate, God won't punish, things like that. So be surrounded, if you have lost somebody to suicide, or if you are suicidal or dealing with somebody who's suicidal, let them know that God is compassionate, or that people care about them, that there is hope, and things like that. Make them stay away from all these negativities, because it really doesn't help. To stigmatize them, or they shouldn't. They let them know that help seeking is actually an act of bravery. It's not a weakness. So it's very, very important to keep telling them, and and have that, let them have in their head that this is something that is not weakness. It's not a bad thing to have, or to be struggling. It's important to get help, and there is help and hope out there. So these are the things that we can learn to prevent suicide. Look for the signs, empathize and listen, ask directly about suicide, remove the danger. I know someone who tell her mother, a girl, a young girl, 12 years old, tell her mother that, Mama, I don't feel safe. I know where you keep your knives. I know where you keep your medications. I know, what else? What did she say? But please, I want to be warded. So, basically that family has created the understanding of, it's okay to not be okay. So if you're not okay, tell me, let's seek help. Let's go, and get you, be somewhere safe, or things like that. It can be, it can be done. I know a family who locked up the balcony door. There are things that we can do. I know somebody who bought like a safe, not to keep money or jewelries, but to keep sharp things or medications, things that can be harmful for people who are living with us and who are suicidal. So, like I said, it's important to be connecting with our loved ones, and it's important to connect them with the professionals. You can also show this, ask them if they're thriving. If the volcano is more for young teenagers or young children, but this one is more for illustration that we can talk about it. We can paste it on our fridge and ask, how's your day today? Are you green, yellow? Are you orange, red? So, these are words, that can help them to express themselves. These are, like trouble sleeping or increased need for control and difficulty adjusting. These are also points that we can notice, or we can see in our loved ones or our relatives that are, that are going through these phases. So when that when they are in red, it's something that you cannot wait anymore. If they're in crisis, hopefully let's not wait for them to be in crisis for us to get them to get help. Usually orange or yellow is something that we need to be, to monitor, or need to be working closely with them, help them, support them. Don't wait until red, but definitely, if it's red, don't wait, don't hesitate, call whatever numbers, helplines, or not helplines, but in crisis, it's important to get them to emergency. So I would put the 4 and 5 together, provide ongoing encouragement and support. We've talked about it, we've discussed about it, but self-care is something that is really, really important. Like it's something that we need to practice as a caregiver. The importance of self-care is that it's essential to prevent burnout and maintain physical and mental health, right? Sometimes it's not the body, sometimes it's the mind that is so drained or so tired, of worrying, of thinking about the people who are under our care, that are suicidal or struggling with mental health issues. You can get burnout, you can get very tired, you can get depressed yourself. You can be struggling with mental health issues yourself. So be very aware, and make sure there's boundaries. Make sure you have rest. Sometimes it is impossible. I know a family who are dealing with twins, who children who are twins that are severely autistic, or who is struggling with mental health, and have autism. So they could hardly this the mother could hardly rest, and but it's important for us to build that community, find the people who can support us, find the people. There are, I'm sure, people who are who care about us and want to be of help, and do not struggle alone. Sometimes we think that we don't want to burden other people, or do not want to bother other people, but it's important to also know our limits, and not wait until because either we explode, or we can implode. Implode means, we can't do it anymore. We become depressed. We become suicidal ourselves. So by prioritizing our own needs, caregivers can better manage stress, improve overall well-being, and continue to provide effective care. It is crucial. What to do when we feel overwhelmed? Of course, do some breathing exercise. Speak to a friend. Do not underestimate the power of sharing or confiding in a friend. Sometimes you don't have to share whatever that's bothering you, but calling somebody and have a laugh, or talk about something that sometimes can help you ease your the struggles or things that are worrying you. We are social beings. So we need each other, we need that support, we need that community support, or friends, families. Just step outside and have a walk, get to bed early, be kind to yourself, start saying no more. If you cannot, you cannot. If you have to make that sacrifice for an invitation to a relative's house, then you have to do what you have to do, right? You do you. Whatever it takes to care for your mental health. Take a break from social media. That's very important, I feel. One of the things that I've stopped doing is looking at Palestine. I remember at one point, I think it was Chinese New Year, and my house could hear all the fireworks, and that was the time when I was scrolling through social media and looking at the Palestinian children being hurt and all that, and I had like a panic attack, because I was relating the fireworks, the sound of fireworks, to bombs and whatnot, and it was after that I just stopped, because I know that it could affect my mental health, and I had to stop doing that. So and take some time out and relax. It's very, very important. Mindful activities, gratitude practice. I make a point, even in my families, my family members, to share what we are grateful for each day. Sometimes it helps us to have a better perspective when we're tired, or when we're very negative or upset with something that day. But gratitude practice, be mindful, be with nature, and all that helps, and can help. This is a picture of a suicide loss survivor who came to AWAS for help. Initially, he lost his girlfriend to suicide, but then he became suicidal and start to using substance, using substance. Mm, I will always remember him because of the struggle that he went through. I remember that he was. I remember trying to connect him to a doctor, or um, uh, take him to a mental health to seek help, right? But he refused because he said, I have drug in my system. I'm really scared that they will report police or things like that. So these are the things that we can help to find out for the people that we are caring for, or as a caregiver. Sometimes these little things that they think is true might not be true, and will hinder them from getting the support they need. So, and then when I found out actually if a person goes to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or if they tell them about their drug use, they will not be reported to the police. The doctors will not lodge a police report. So things like that, you can help by telling them this information will help them to seek help. He's been treated and for depression, and he's well now, and helping others to spread awareness on suicide loss. So do the SAD method when feeling sad. Self-care, action, distraction. These are important things. Worthlessness, we all know, sometimes judgment, self-loathing, anger, these are all sense of worthlessness that we can hear or we can see somebody portraying. Levels of suicidal ideation, not everyone who is talking about suicide is suicidal. There is such thing as passive suicidal thoughts or active suicidal thoughts. So these are the breakdowns, suicidal thoughts, suicidal intent, suicidal plan and intent, and suicide attempt. So, make sure to understand where, if somebody is suicidal, where are they at? Just because they are having suicidal thoughts does only without intent or without plan does not mean they will not attempt. So just be mindful. But if there's something to really, really worry about is when they start to have intention and plan. Plan is that means more structured. They know exactly what they want to do or how they want to end their life. So it's important for us to not wait, not assume that, oh, this is just their thoughts, that they will not act on it. The moment somebody has suicidal thoughts, it's already something that we need to be aware of. Safety plans, there are a lot of safety plans out there. You can Google it. There are also apps that will help us to create our own safety plans. AWAS has it. A lot of NGOs have it. You can find them, whatever is most comfortable to you. If, not right, if writing down is not your thing, then have an app. Some people follow their journey of like how many days they are sober for alcoholics, but how many days they do not self-harm, or how many days, or is their suicidal thoughts are getting worse, or they monitor, and they have these apps to help them be safe. So this is the advocacy, the part where I feel that is very, very related to me. I started off as a survivor of suicide loss, someone who became very, very depressed, someone who lost hope. I'm not a public speaker, to be honest. I cannot do public speaking. I remember the first time I was invited through AWAS to speak about my lived experience and about suicide prevention. That morning I woke up and I was throwing up. I was puking and throwing up, and I had anxiety. It was really, really bad. I could not speak. It was very, very difficult. But as I go along, I get better at it. Advocacy becomes my purpose in life. It's my calling now. I have moved away from, throughout my life, I have from doing psychology or working in a hospital, helping people. I've worked in ICRC, International Committee of the Red Cross, also helping, people in displaced people, but still, no matter how, or I've done humanitarian work, no matter how far I've uh, gone out from the psychology or social work related, somehow it keeps calling me back. Maybe it's my calling, maybe that's what God wants me to do. So it's my purpose to advocate, perhaps until the end of time, I don't know. But I feel like when I do advocacy work, I'm honoring the my loved one, and it gives me purpose. It gives me meaning to my life, especially when I'm down and depressed. Um, it's something that I can look back and feel like, you know, like there's meaning to my life. Like I am doing something, giving, I am contributing to the society. I am making a difference in somebody's life, be it one person, two-person. It does not matter how many people you help. The most important thing is you have that the heart to help. Because at the end of the day, it's not a popularity contest. What is most important is saving lives. So I would like to share about Emma Benoit. She also started advocacy. She suffered with anxiety and depression for years, was having a full-fledged panic attack when she shot herself in the chest. Don't worry, the video does not have anything that is not suitable or triggering, hopefully. But if it's triggering, please get the help that you need. Like Alex said earlier, there are people who are on standby to support you. She said, I was to my breaking point and I needed help to process everything during a panic attack. She called her mom to calm her down. And she remembers, the shot being fired and many of the moments and feelings afterwards. She said the mostly notable thing was the regret she felt after firing. So, a lot of people, if we listen to people who lived the experience, a lot of them, even I'm sorry, I can't remember his name right now. A very famous American uh, who attempted at the San Francisco Bridge. I'm sure some of you may know him. He also talk about how, the moment he left the rail, the feeling of regret, like I don't, God's, I save me, like that's a lot of people who have attempted reported feeling regret of doing so. And it's something that, of course, sometimes it cannot be reversed. So I would like to share on Emma Benoit video. It was kind of almost like God was showing me why this was the biggest mistake ever. The last thing I remember was my mom coming into my room. So it's something that I would love for everyone to listen to. Being unfortunate. Okay.
And no one has to think about her anymore. No one has to worry about her anymore. She's gone, and that's it.
Now, my mom was there. I just said, oh my God. Okay, is she breathing? Yes, please, keep breathing. Stay with me, baby girl, please. I want you to stay down every single time she takes a breath in. Now.
I didn't have a clue she was struggling.
Seeing her in ICU, she looked broken completely.
You start thinking immediately, where did I go wrong? Cheerleader, great grades in school, popular. Not Emma.
They said I may walk or I may not. They said there's a 1% chance that I will. For as long as I can remember, I have struggled with anxiety and depression. Well, it's the first time I've ever admitted that.
There is no age that is more likely to think about suicide and attempt suicide than high school kids. We're afraid to talk about suicide. We think if we talk about it, it's going to give someone the idea. When the reality is young people don't want to die, they want their pain to go away.
But your story will say to someone out there thinking about death, maybe I need to pause.
I don't know if I want to put it out there for the world to see what I really have been through and what I'm going through.
How?
I just know that if it saves at least one person, or even helps one person to just stand up and be like, I have those feelings and I have those thoughts, and not to be ashamed of it, then it's worth it.
A local teen who lived to talk about her suicide attempt is sharing her story with the world.
One of the things I'm like most grateful for is like this new perspective I have on life. I really do see colors brighter.
If we could do a better job in training how to help each other and actually begin to empowering young people, that to me is the secret.
I'll be your biggest cheerleader, but if you tell me you're good and you're not, I'm gonna get it in your face.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have some talking to do.
I was having so much suicidal thoughts. I would cry every day. I'm sure you understand.
Yeah, I do. I get it. It's so necessary that people understand how you're feeling.
As you know, St. James Parish lost a precious 15-year-old 10th grader.
Your pain was gone, but ours just began. I can't help but think, why? Why was I safe that he wasn't?
We're drowning out here. We need a lifeguard to send out a raft and pull us ashore.
This is not a school issue. This is a community issue. I want you to see what you can do for suicide prevention.
Every single day I wake up and I'm like, how did I get here? But then I have to look back and remember how far I've come. To really be thankful. Maybe this is my calling, you know? Maybe my pain and suffering can help someone else. I have this weird feeling. It's called hope. It wasn't an easy journey coming to faith, but I'm working on it.
Ministry of Health invited me to share my lived experience for the police department and the media practitioners, and also I've written a book and was invited to share my to sign and share my journey as a suicide loss survivor. It's very rare to hear survivors of suicide loss or individuals bereaved by suicide talk. This was Meta, and if you can see the man in white, a white t-shirt, Shauki is his name. Recently, he has with Befrienders, he has joined forces, and Joey, Shauki has lost her friend. His friend Joey, who was a swimmer and wanted to swim from Lang Tengah, an island, to the mainland in Kedah, and he was able to honor that for Joey. So recently they were able to get to crowdfund, I think, almost 200,000 ringgit in the name of suicide prevention. So this is a support group. We believe that we don't every time we have a support group, it's always small. The biggest number is 16 people, but it was online. Usually on site is less, but the lesser people, the more we can share, the more we can confide, and it has been a wonderful journey in terms of sharing and listening and supporting people who have gone through the same experience. To the right, Encik Fuad has lost his son. He talks about it, has been writing books on it. So there are people coming out and sharing and talking about it. Some people want to advocate, like Shauki, he had this event going on, and then the rest. So interesting time to be in advocacy. I feel I started off advocacy when Malaysia was still penalizing or fining or sending people to prison for taking their lives, for attempting suicide. The Penal Code 309. So now it has been decriminalized. So it's really, really awesome that the grassroots people who are fighting for it are now the law has been decriminalized. So that's awesome. And I know Singapore has has achieved that before Malaysia, but still, hopefully in the region, in the Southeast Asia region, things are changing. Pakistan has changed that as well. Hopefully more to follow. So it's important to provide the community support. It provides emotional safety net, for the people around us. It reduces stigma around mental health struggles. It encourages early intervention, help seeking, and also save precious lives. So we can build resilience together, foster open conversations about mental health, promote self-care, encourage shared responsibility within families and communities. It's not just about him or her, it's our responsibility. It's our problem. Suicide prevention is our business. It's everybody's business. And we should celebrate small steps of recovery and progress. Like I said, just because today you feel like you're nobody does not mean, if you keep going down that path, believing that you can, believing that things will change, surround yourself with good people who can support you. Things can change and will change for the better, inshallah. And key takeaways here: prevention starts with connection and compassion. Caregivers are the front lines and allies in suicide prevention. Together, we can create a resilient, supportive community. Do know that we all can make a difference. Don't think that your words don't, your words will not have impact. Your words matter, your compassion matter, you being there, being present matters. So please give hope, and please have hope that it's something that we can all do as a community, for the community. Thank you so much, Alex. I open for Q&A. Please ask away. No questions is too offensive. In case I find it difficult or unable to answer, I will let you know for whatever reason. Yeah. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. I've learned so much from your sharing, and honestly, your sharing is also a great reminder that really suicide prevention is not only everyone's business, but there's still so much conversation that's required, right? And as you're sharing also about the stigma, there are definitely a few stigma that's prevalent in Singapore as well. Like the point where you mentioned about, for example, in Malaysia, there is still a need for more awareness that when it comes to factors leading to suicide, it's really multifaceted, right? I think it's something that we are also trying to continue to raise awareness in Singapore as well. And also the idea of how people may miss the sign is the same here too. And I think both you and I, we are ASEE certified, applied certified suicide intervention skills training. And there's one part on learning how to ask the suicide question. How are you thinking about suicide, right? And in Singapore, while we continue to advocate that, it is still very difficult. People still find it very challenging. And we even had a research on the stigma of suicide in Singapore, and 8 in 10 of Singaporeans still feel that asking a suicide question may plant the idea in the person's head. So, as I'm hearing your sharing, there's so much, I would say, similarity in the type of challenges as well, and the level of stigma here too. So I'm going to read off some of the questions from the Zoom chat, and then later on, if there's time, I'll open up to the floor for 1 or 2 person to ask you live. Okay? So C. Lim asks, do AWAS have support group for domestic violence or suicidal people?
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. We work closely with WAO. We exchange numbers. Sometimes we, at mental health talks, or, we make a point to connect. We can't do all the work as far as domestic violence is concerned. We don't have the capacity or expertise, but we do work together. Sometimes a lot of individuals who are who deals or struggle with domestic violence have mental health issues, or need support or counseling, or peer support and things like that. So what WAO or Women Aid Organization or other NGOs who are supporting people in domestic violence will connect them to us. And if they're suicidal, we will support whatever we can in our capacity. So basically, the legal part of being not one about their marriage, or things like that. So it's a collaboration of both from 2 NGOs, and that's how we work. With other, sometimes we have to work with other NGOs who are, let's say, I have helped a student. She was a law student, now she's a lawyer. But she was not able to attend her chambering because she was dealing with severe mental illness at the point. Her OCD was really, really severe at that moment. So, I had to interfere. I've gone to many, many places that are, out of my, my And I've driven to Johor, three hours away, just to help save a life, I remember. So those are the things that I did beyond, out of the box, but sometimes we just have to be creative and Google and find people who can help us. It does not necessarily be an NGO. Of course, an NGO, it's more established. But sometimes, helping somebody. I remember a child texting us AWAS line, and I happened to man the line. He said he was suicidal. He was just released, discharged by a hospital, and then I asked how come you're suicidal and they discharge you, right? And then the person, the boy said, he was 13. The boy said, I don't know why, but I got discharged. So I said, do you should go back to the hospital, because you're still suicidal and not well. And he said, yeah, I want to, but I don't know how. So I said, can I speak to your parents? So he said yes. There are different scenarios. Sometimes there are cases where children or minors, people underage do not want me to speak to their parents. But sometimes I do all this things out of the box, or things that are not in, that needs to be creative in order to help other people. And because of my network in the mental health scene, because I used to be a psychology officer back then in Hospital Permai, Johor, I have these networks, and because I maintain my networks and all that, sometimes it's as simple as a phone call to ask, little questions, and so be resourceful. The key a message here is be resourceful. Don't worry about not knowing. We all start with zero. We all start with not knowing what to do, sometimes how to help. But there are always people that you can refer and find out, whether it's professionals or people with lived experience, combine all this, and you can be more equipped to help and be ready to help other people who are in crisis.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Right, and I can totally resonate with you when it comes to helping people. We try our very best. We all may start from zero, but there will always be someone else that we can help us as well. For any of you here, if you are wondering for Singapore, we have the AWARE Singapore, AWARE, for anyone who is facing family violence. But in any case, if you don't know where to seek help, just go to the nearest family service center. They will help you, and they'll refer you to the right channel as well. Okay, another question from Angie. Referring to your chart, the one with the 4 colors, how do we support someone chronically suicidal, i.e. perpetually at risk, already on follow-up with professionals and on medication?
Okay, it is very, very difficult. I think number one, as a caregiver or somebody who is, I'm assuming, Angie, you're a caregiver, it is very hard. You have to acknowledge that, it is not easy. There are days when you just get really burnt out, because especially if you're on that person is on constant suicide watch, because you said, they're chronically suicidal, and they, all they want is just to I know a person, the person who has planned and told me about the detail of her plan. She was warded for 6 months in the psychiatric ward, for by borderline personality disorder. So she knows herself that she is chronically suicidal, and as a caregiver, it is also, you have to admit, or you have to acknowledge that it is a difficult journey, but make sure to always know that there is that support, and get that support. Sometimes you feel like you may think that people are sick and tired of you calling or going to the hospital, but maybe sometimes that's just your thinking. Whether or not people stigmatize you, or people at the hospital, there are, even if let's say at the ward, at the hospital, people know you already, know you for going there to a lot of times, or the phone call, the helpline center, know you, recognize you already for asking for help. It's okay, they are there for a reason. They are there to help you. For those who are cynical about it, for those who are not very helpful, there's nothing much we can do. Put them aside, and focus on the people who want to support, who want to be there. What is most important is your self-care, that you know that you do not want to lose this person to suicide. And please do not do not think that you cannot lose this person, because sometimes, yes, when it has happened, the mental health crisis has happened so many times, or the attempt has happened so many times, people or the caregivers get really tired or get really annoyed sometimes, because it takes a lot from you, mentally, emotionally, you get worried, and sometimes you can't sleep, you can't, but it's also please know that it's not, it's an ongoing thing. It's regarded as a disability, something that, people who are disabled need that constant support, need that constant help, right? So yes, it gets tiring, but reach out for help, reach out for support, practice self-care, the ones that I told you. It is something that is possible. It is very difficult, yes, but it's not, you're not hopeless, or you're not helpless. There is help out there, there is support. So believe that you can take your rest. You must have that rest, and reach out. There are people who will be there and who want to be there for you. I hope I answer your question.
Yeah. Maybe I will ask you a follow-up question, and after that, I'll open up to the floor for any attendees who would like to ask you a question live. But of course, a gentle reminder to the attendees here, when you're asking your question, please remember to exercise the respect for the speaker. And this is also not a counseling session, yeah? So, on your earlier response, I just want to ask you for some thoughts on how do we then practice self-care? Because in the Zoom chat earlier, there were a few comments relating about how it can be quite exhausting for the caregivers, right? So just want to hear from you, what are some of the things that we can do as a caregiver relating to self-care?
Yeah, thank you for that question. For your information, I am not ready to share. I am actually just started my journey as a caregiver to a loved one who is who had just been diagnosed with autism and ADHD, and she was also depressed, or she is depressed and suicidal, have been in and out of the ward, psychiatric ward, for 4 times already. So I may not understand exactly the degree of what you guys are going through. It's very unique in that sense. That means only you know, or only you know your journey or your grief. Self-care is for me, it's very personal, I think. What may be right for me, or what is restful or peaceful for me, may not be for you, but it's important that we find out what is right for us. For me personally, I think sleep is my go-to thing when I am overwhelmed, or when I like I said, I'm also dealing with my depression, right? So there are days when it gets too much. When I was dealing with going in and out of the ward to visit my loved one, um, I remember calling my doctor and ask if my meds aren't working already. Suddenly, I feel this overwhelming feeling, like like my meds, like I'm having panic attacks again, anxiety all the time, like palpitation, and and then he started asking me what's going on in your life, da 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 da, and I told him, and he said, please increase your dose. So he said, this is not advisable for everyone. If you are on medication, speak to your doctor. I spoke to my doctor. So find that, find a doctor who can, you can speak and ask about these things. Tell them that you're struggling at the moment. And then he said, you just increase your dose. So it was from 15 milligram to 20 milligram. And that little tweak really helped me. It helped me to sleep better, okay, I may not be exercising as much as I should, but I know, being out there, walking can help me. But my go-to thing, when I'm really, really burnout or tired, I need sleep, I need rest. Sometimes I just switch off the lights and just be on my own. I need to be in a quiet space, So find your thing. What is the right thing for you? To some people, maybe dancing. To some people, maybe going to clubs, or whatever it is. Some people, maybe nature. Whatever it is, whatever rock your boat, do it, and make sure you hold on to it, and find somebody who is understanding enough to support you and allow you to have that moment, whether it's half an hour, one day, half a day, to get that for you to recharge yourself. It is very important for us to recharge ourselves because we don't want to end up not helping them. We don't want to end up being in the same situation where we both feel helpless and we both are not able to get out of it, right? As the caregiver, we have that responsibility. Just like, when we are on the aeroplane, we have to, as a caregiver, we have to make sure to put on the mask, oxygen mask to ourselves first, right? Wear the seatbelt first and then put on the seatbelt to our loved one, or put on the oxygen mask first and then for our loved one. So these are the things that we also, yes, it's easier said than done. I know for a fact, I am also going through it right now, but make sure you have your supportive people around you. Identify, sometimes you don't need many, 2-3 of them that will help and make a difference in your life. And make sure not to hesitate to say it out loud. Say it out loud to somebody, to people who can support you. Tell them that you need this rest, or you need this time, you need this moment, half an hour or whatever it is, half a day to rest or to do whatever you need to do. So it's very important for us to know that it's okay, that it's not just we telling them that it's okay to seek help. We also need to be able to verbalize that, be able to say that we need help, we need support. So don't hesitate to do that.
Thank you so much for this sharing. Okay, anyone would like to ask a question live? If you want, just raise your hand or click the raise hand button. I'll keep a lookout for you. But a gentle reminder to exercise the respect for the speaker. And also, this is not for counseling session. Anyone would like to ask a question? Anyone? Okay, maybe I'll just close off with one last question from Zahiruddin. Is there a greater amount of stigma of suicide in the Malay Muslim community? Even in suicide support groups, there are limited attendance from Malay Muslim survivors. How can we encourage more openness in the community and reduce the stigma?
I love that question. Thank you for that question. I struggle with that question, or that thought for a long, long time. To the point where I got sick of it, I got sick of the stigma. I got sick of the perspective of, oh, your loved one is in hell, or people who die by suicide will go to hell. I hate it. It's something that I had to challenge myself. And then I realized, if you really, as a Muslim, right, and I can answer from my perspective as Muslim, if you know, not if you know, you have to get to know your God again, or your religion again. God is most compassionate. That's stated in the book, in the Quran. So if God is most compassionate, most kind, most benevolent, and all that, right? Why is he sending this person to hell? But there is that catch there. For me, what makes me feel relief is the fact that although my loved one was not diagnosed, although he was not labeled ill or sick, I know for a fact that he was not well. In Islam, there is such thing as rukhsah, right? When for example, rukhsah means keringanan, or you don't have to be, you're not accountable for such things. For example, it says the pen is lifted from 3 people who are sleeping. That means when they're sleeping, they're not they don't have consciousness, or they're not aware of what they're doing. People who are young, or children, they haven't reached their full potential of maturity, and people who are not the word is majnoon. Unfortunately, it's directly translated as crazy, but in this context, it's people who are depressed, people who have lost the sense of, like, the peace and all that. So if you're ill, like even Islam, it says if you're ill, you don't have to fast in Ramadan, during Ramadan fasting season, right? If you're not well, you don't have to fast standing up. You can sit down, you can lay down. So people who are ill, people who are depressed, people who have lost the pleasure of life, people who are bipolar or whatever it is, right? They are ill, and I believe they do not go to hell. So that is just my way of getting the comfort for me. It may be sensitive to other people. I have had an atheist in my support group who was very upset when I say that. This mother said she lost her daughter to suicide, and she said, "What about me? I'm an atheist. I don't believe in any God." I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know, because what is only you can know what is right or what that you are looking for." So that was what I was looking for, the answer to my understanding of my religion and how God is towards the people. So I do not believe that my loved one went to hell, or I do not believe that God simply put people in hell just because they took their life. He is most just, so he will do his job. It's not for us to judge. So that gives me that comfort. So if you're an atheist, or if you do not believe in God, or anything like that, what works for you? At the end of the day, it's important that you stay alive, that you are well, to either take care of yourself or take care of the people around you. So it does not matter if Islam is not suitable for you, or does not, whatever that is in my book does not resonate with your book. It does not matter. What matters is that you keep finding your purpose, and you keep staying alive in order to help other people and find your meaning and purpose in this world, because we all need to find our peace and be okay with living, and keep on fighting in this world, and be there, be here in this world, right? So it is a very personal journey. It's something that we all have to find out, and search within ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your sharing. I have to also say that in Singapore, we also observe that the different faith, they're also at different level in terms of incorporating mental health and suicide prevention talk as well. Caring for Life as an agency, we have the chance to work with various agencies also. I still remember the one time when we actually run our suicide prevention program inside a mosque itself. And that was really quite a memorable experience for me. And we also observe in other religious groups, for example, churches, all right, and the Taoist group as well. So I think it's really heartening to see how various religions are incorporating all this information into their practice too. So sorry, Joanne, I know I saw your hand, but we are running short of time. So you see, Alia, this is how much passion this community has. But I'm so sorry, Joanne. So maybe how about this, Alia? Maybe do you have any closing message for us, and also share with us how can we reach out to you if we have any other questions?
Thank you, Joanne, for your hand up. I would love to answer all the questions. I will try my best, but please reach out on AWAS Instagram. Excuse me, on our Instagram or Facebook. But quickly, you can jot this down: 01023 44. Okay, sorry, it's a Malaysian number. So +601 023448008. Please WhatsApp, do not call. It's a text line number. It's something that if it's something really burning that you want to text, our volunteers will forward it to me. And sometimes I do look into all the questions or issues, concerns as well. We are on Instagram and Facebook. Please follow us and be in touch. I would love to be in touch with fellow Singaporeans or Mongolian or anywhere. Let's keep on saving lives. Let's preserve lives, because do know that there is hope. Sometimes I was there too, feeling hopeless and helpless, but do know that there is hope, and there is light out there. No matter how bleak it seems right now, how dark it seems right now, do know that you can find hope, and there is hope out there. So do not Do not give up. I'm here. We are all here. We just have to reach out. And if let's say I'm too busy, move to the next person, keep on finding the right. And sometimes we have to keep shopping for even psychiatrists or even mental health professionals, counselors, psychologists. Sometimes when we speak to one, they're not our cup of tea. It's okay. Move to the next one. If you call a hotline and they're not answering, or they didn't give you a satisfying answer, move to the next one. Keep moving on until you feel supported, you feel heard. What is important is you. And your mental health is not, yes, we can be angry at the world for stigmatizing us, for treating us bad, but what is important is us and how we want to live in this world and make peace with ourselves. So please take care, everyone. Thank you so much, Alex, for this. It's been lovely. I love this session. Do reach out and keep in touch, everyone.